Hi everyone. If you would like to excel your career more in software quality assurance testing field, then this course is for you now. Because in this course I am going to teach you the basics of ETL testing. What exactly you are going to learn in this course? So the agenda of this course will be I will be explaining you what is ETL testing, data warehouse testing concepts, then I will be explaining more in detail about the ETL testing process. And what exactly the types of ETL testing. Then I will explain you in this course how to create ETL test cases, how we can create the test scenarios and test cases for ETL, the types of ETL bugs, and what exactly the responsibilities the ETL testers needs to perform. And one of the most important things we will discuss in this course, key things to become a ETL testers, and what exactly the tools available for best ETL testing tools. And then I will explain you more in detail the time, how much time you need to become a ETL and data warehouse tester. So before proceeding further, let me introduce myself. I am working as a software quality assurance engineer, 15 plus year of experience in IT sector and majorly focus on not only the manual testing but also have a sound expertise in the business intelligence and ETL testing. So now let me explain few of my achievements. So these are my professional achievements. I am a certified data governance champion from Informatica. Informatica is the global highly demanding in tool which will be helping for doing the ETL transformations and producing the data quality. Along with that, I also did the certifications from Google Data Analytics and Project Management. So looking forward to teach you in our first session. Thank you very much for watching this. So now let's talk about what is ETL testing. In a simple nutshell, I just want to say the ETL testing is done to ensure that the data has been loaded from a source to the destination after you applying the business transformation is accurate. It also involves the verification of data at various middle stages that are being used between the source and destination. And ETL stands for extract, transform, load. Now let's talk more in detail with the help of data visualization. In real time, what will happen? If you see this diagram closely, so you are getting the data from CRM system, you might be getting the data from the ERP, you might be getting the data from your customer, the flat files. The flat files can be the ERP, the flat files can be the CSV file, the Excel file, or you are getting the data from the unstructured form. What is unstructured data? It can be in the form of images, it can be in the form of videos, and it can be in the form of text data now. So once these data are coming from the different sources, you are loading the data in the ODS system. So what is mean by ODS? ODS is online data transformation system now. So after loading the data towards your staging environment, staging environment is the one where you are massaging the data, you are transforming the data, you are applying the conditions, you are applying the business rules. And this is the area, the staging area, where we are producing the quality data now. And once we are transforming the data, applying the conditions, and cleaning the data, then we are loading the data towards our data warehouse now. And once your millions of billions of records are moving towards the data warehouses, this is the area, then we are developing the small data sets. So in a one business unit, might be they are interested to see only the sales data. Another business team, they are expecting to see their financial data, or another business department, they are only observing and expecting for data with respect to HR department. So you are making a different data bricks, and those data bricks then presenting towards the expected data sources in front of the dashboards reports, and those dashboards reports will be presenting towards the end user. And this is how the ecosystem of ETL testing will come up into the stage, and the dashboards of beautiful data illustrations will be produced when the business users, or you have seen here the BI is written, the business intelligence will be getting for the expected users when they have all their expected outcomes. So this will be the agenda of our ETL testing, and this is the stage where QA tester will come. The staging, the data loading towards the warehousing. So the job of a ETL tester, he or she responsible and accountable for make sure this thing that the data which is loading in the data warehouse, that data must be meeting the end customer business requirements. In the next session, we will be seeing more in detail how we can adopt and proceed towards our ETL testing. Now let's talk about more in detail about the ETL testing. So ETL testing, different phases as I already explained in the previous session. Extract means you are extracting the data from the source system. And the source systems we already discussed about can be anything else. The source systems can be your the flat files, your source systems can be your XLX file, CSV file, and once you are getting extracting the data, then you are applying the transformation. So when we talk about the transformation, this means we need to apply certain functions to confirm that data to a standard dimensional schema, and data must be the meaningable form. This is the area we are producing the work in the form of transformation. In the upcoming session, I will be explaining more in detail hands-on activities how you can transform the data. So after transforming the data, then we need to load the data, and loading the data into the data mart for consumptions. As I already given you the example in a previous session, like HR department, they are expecting their data, the sales department, they are expecting their data marts. So we are developing the different data marts. Data marts mean we are creating the different segments, and those segments in the form of data we will be presenting towards our business users so they can make their decision making. And once we load the data, then this is the area, the process, the load the data from the data marts into the cube for browsing. And this is the last step for the ETL testing, where business users they can further play around and do some their analysis for towards their business revenue creation. Hi everyone. Now let's talk about ETL testing process. So similar to other ETL testing process, ETL also go through the different phases. The different phases of ETL testing process you will be able to see in this diagram. So the business requirements, first of all, you need to understand. So what your requirements the client is expecting, they are expecting the sales data, they are expecting the HR data, or they are expecting the accounting data, or they are expecting for another department the hiring data. So once you understand their business rules, that what exactly the how many records they are expecting for moving towards the source system to the target system, everything you need to get the clarity in this stage now. So once you get the clarity in terms of business requirements, then you need to plan for your estimation. So in the estimation phase, our primary goal must be we need to make our test plan. And when we are making a test plan, our job must be we need to specify how many days it will take for moving the and loading the data, how many days we need to understand the business requirements, what will be the process for sharing the progress, and then we need to also estimate the time with respect to applying the transformations now. So all those stuffs we are measuring under the umbrella of test planning and estimation. And the next step here, we are doing our major stuff for designing the test cases now. And here we need to preparing the test data. And once we preparing the test data, then we need to execute and we need to report the bug. Like when we are loading the data from extracting the data towards the source system to the target system, and if there will be any bugs are coming, we need to report them. And after that, we need to present our summary report in front of our QA manager. And at the last, this is how we need to close our testing activities after validating and verifying each and every single business rules and the transformation that everything must be produced same as per expected results now. Now let's talk about the types of ETL testing. So here the source to target testing validation. This is the first part in ETL testing we need to perform. So such type of ETL testing is carried out to validate whether the data value transformed are the expected data values or not. If they are not the expected value, then we need to raise the defect. Another type of ETL testing, we need to perform the application upgrades. So this can be happen with you, like your managers or your organization is expecting that they need to apply the such type of ETL testing can be automatically generated, saving substantial test development time, or this type of testing checks whether the extracted data from an older application or repository are exactly same as the data in a repository or a new application. So the application level ETL testing means if you are moving the data from old application can be, let's say, Lotus Notes. So if there is a one application Lotus Notes and you want to move the data, Lotus Notes application data towards the SharePoint Microsoft. So once we are loading the data, we need to make sure everything must be mapped properly and there should not be any bad data. So this type of testing in ETL comes application upgrades now. The third type of ETL testing, which the business users are expecting for us, which is called as the metadata testing. Under the metadata testing includes testing of data type check, data length check, and index constraint checks now. Another type of ETL testing, then we need to perform the data completeness testing. So the data completeness testing, we need to verify that all the expected data is loaded in a target form from the source system and data completeness testing is done. Some of the tests that can be run are compare and validate counts, aggregates, and actual data between the source and target for columns with simple transformation or no transformation. So this is how in data completeness testing, our goal must be to make sure that expected data is loading from the target system to the source system now. Now let's talk about more in detail about the types of ETL testing. The data accuracy testing. This is a type of testing is done to ensure that data is accurately loaded and transformed as expected. This type of testing is called as the data accuracy testing. Without knowing these terms, you cannot perform the ETL testing. So your foundation must be strong first of all. Then we will like to do the hands-on activities. The second type of testing for the ETL, the data transformation testing. What does this mean? So the testing the data transformation is done as in many cases it cannot be achieved by writing one source of SQL query and comparing the output with the target. In this type of transformation, we need to apply the multiple SQL queries and we may need to run for each row and our goal must be to verify the transformation rules. So whatever the transformation rules, it can be concatenating the two columns, it can be distributing one columns to the multiple columns, or it can be presenting the column data in a proper format. So such kind of transformations you are applying in such kind of data transformation testing. Now let's talk about the data quality testing. So In this type of ETL testing, our reference test, it will check the data according to the data model. For example, the customer ID. The quality testing includes a real-time example can be the number check, the date check, precision check, the data check, and null checks. So all these things, our main objective as a ETL tester will be we need to make sure there should not be any null data, there should not be any bad data, and if the column which has the number data, the only number data must be present. The text data does not be present there now. And if there are any inconsistency, we need to raise the defect. Then we need to test the incremental testing now. So this testing is done to check the data integrity of the old and new data with the addition of the new data. So incremental testing verifies that the insert updates are getting processed as expected during incremental ETL process. So we are proceeding in this type of ETL testing a step-by-step process now. That is the reason this is marked as the incremental ETL testing. Now let's talk about the GUI navigation testing. So this testing is done to check the navigation or GUI aspects of the front-end reports now. So in a simple words, whatever you are doing in a ETL testing, so these are all the best practices in a real time you will be performing either the incremental testing, the GUI testing, the upgrading your old system to the new system, or you are applying the transformations. Now let's talk about how to create ETL test cases. The ETL testing is a concept which can be applied to different tools and databases in information management industry. The objective in a simple word, a ETL testing is to ensure that the data has been loaded from a source to the destination after business transformation is accurate. So whatever the transformations we are applying, our goal must be the expected data must meet the business outcomes. Okay. And also one thing you need to understand, like it also involves the verification of data at various middle stages. So this is not the case like you just need to verify one time. Every stage of the ETL, you need to make sure that data which are loading from the source system and moving towards the transformation, their business rules are implemented correctly and we are getting the expected results. So this is how, in a simple words, uh, overview about how to create a test cases. And now let's talk about more in detail. So while performing the ETL testing, you must know the two documents that always be used by an ETL tester. So what are those two ETL documents? The first document, you must prepare the ETL mapping sheets. An ETL mapping sheets contains all the information of source and destination tables. So for example, like it includes each and every column and their lookup in reference table. So you must know how many columns you have in the source tables and how many, what are their data types and what are their uh, types of data. And in the similar way, the targeted system, they must also have the same number of columns. An ETL tester, our job must be to be comfortably write SQL queries. If you does not know how to write the SQL queries, then sorry to say this is very difficult to become a good ETL tester. To become a good ETL tester, you must try to understand the SQL language first and involving in writing the big queries with multiple joins. So the data normalization concept is very important here. You must know the RDBMS rules, relationship database management, business rules as well, one to one, one to many. And then you also need to know ETL mapping sheets provide a significant help basically while writing our queries for the data verification purposes. And another type of document which you need to understand about the DB schema of sorts, like the ER diagram, you need to get the consultation from the database architect. They will provide you all those informations now. And that will basically help you to understand, to verify all the mapping sheets as per the business requirements. Now let's talk about what are the test scenarios and the test cases when we specifically talk about the ETL test case scenarios and the test cases. So first of all, the mapping talk. In the test scenarios, one test scenario will be the mapping doc, and the test case can be verify mapping doc whether corresponding ETL information is provided or not, and change log should maintain in every mapping document. So mapping doc validation is the first scenario, and what exactly the test case will be here we are performing. So the second test scenario can be the validation. In the validation types of test scenario, what we are doing, our test cases can be validate the source and target table structure against corresponding mapping document. Number two test case can be source data type and target data type. That should be the same. Just like if in the source system there is a date column, in the similar way, your targeted table also have the date column. That not be the case like the date is showing towards the name column. So in that sort of cases if are occurring, so you need to report the defect. And then you need to write the test cases like the length of data types in both the source and target system must be equal. Or you need to write the test cases verify that the data field type and format are specified and the source data length should not less than the target data type length, and then you need to validate the name of the columns in the table against the mapping doc. So these are the validations you need to perform when you are writing the test cases for the validation. Another type of test scenario can be the constraint validation. So the test case can be ensured that the constraints are defined for specific table as expected. So if in the source system there is a primary key is specified in a column, so the same constraint must be applied towards the targeted system. And if there is a unique key in the source system, then we need to make sure that the target system must also have the unique key. So these constraints, our job as a ETL tester, we must be very careful for validating the constraint. And then we need to make sure that data consistency issues. So in this area, you need to write the test case. The data type and the length of a particular attribute may vary in files or tables through the semantic definition is the same. Or you can also write the test cases for misuses of integrity constraint now. So another test scenario, completeness issues. In this area, we need to specify ensure all the expected data is loaded into the target table properly. Another test case can be compare the record counts. This is one of the most important transformation business rule that the source number of records must be equal to the target number of records. So this is you must need to understand when you are performing the ETL testing for the completeness issues now. And we need to check for any rejected records. And we need to check the data should not be truncated in the column of targeted tables. And we need to also check the boundary value analysis. And we also need to write the test cases compares unique values of key fields between the loaded to WH system and the source data now. Then another test scenario will be correctness issues. So in the correctness issues here, we can write the test cases for data that is misspelled or incorrectly recorded. We can write the test cases like this. or we can also check the null, non-unique, or out of range data test cases. Another test scenarios will be the transformation. Under the transformation, we need to apply the business rule for writing the test cases like the number check, need to check the number and validate it. The date check, they have followed the date format properly. If the date format is not properly loaded towards the target system, we need to validate as well. Precision check, and we need to check the data and the null value check now. Another test scenarios can be the null validation. So verify all the null values where not null specified for a specific column. So these are all the test scenarios and the test cases we need to make sure for performing the ETL testing. There are some more ETL test scenarios, the duplicate check. When we talk about this test scenario, this means we need to validate the unique key, primary key. And any other column should be unique as per the business requirements or having any duplicate rows. This is the test case we need to verify as well. There should not be any duplicate. Another duplicate check, we need to make sure if any value exists in any column which is extracting from the multiple columns in source and combining into the one column. If that is happening, the test case will mark as the failed. Then we also need to make sure that as per the client requirements needs to be ensured that no duplicate records in the combination of multiple columns within the target systems only are presenting. Then we also need to validate another test scenarios, the date validation. The date values are using many areas in the ETL development for to know the row creation date, identify the active records as per the ETL development perspective. We also need to identify the active records as per the business requirement perspective now. And sometimes we also need to write the test cases based on the date value, the update and insert are generated. Then we need to also write another test scenario is the complete data validation. And here these are the test cases to validate the complete data set in the source and table minus query in a best solution. We need to source minus target and target minus sources, and then we also make sure that if minus query returns any value, those should be considered as mismatching rows. And needs to matching rows or among sources and targeted using intersect statements now. And the count returned by intersect should be matching within the. So in the complete data validation, to validate the complete data set in source and target table minus a query in a best solutions, we also need to source minus target and target minus source. Then another test case can be that if minus query returns any value, those should be considered as mismatching rows and needs to matching a rows among source and target using intersect statement now. The most important thing is you can also validate the count returned by intersect should match with individual count of source and target tables. And if there will be any minus query returns of a row and count intersect is less than the source count or target table, then we also need to consider as a duplicate row or exist. We need to understand what are the types of bugs are coming when we talk about the ETL testing. The ETL testing defects can be the user interface bugs, the boundary value analysis related bugs, the ECP related bugs, the data warehouse related bugs, the race conditions, the load condition bugs. I will be explaining you all in detail in the next slides now. So when we are talking about the user interface bugs, this means related to GUI, related to font, size, colors, alignment, spellings, navigation, and blah blah blah. And when we are talking about the boundary value, That includes like minimum and maximum value ranges. And when we are talking about the equivalence ECB partitioning related bugs, that consists the valid and invalid type. And input and output bugs related towards the valid values not accepted and invalid values accepted. The types of ETL testing, also the user interface bugs, cosmetic bugs that relates towards the GUI, font size, color alignments, the boundary value, equivalence, partitioning, ECP related valid and invalid, and out gauge. And then we also have the calculation bugs that includes the mathematical errors. Final output is wrong. Load condition bugs does not allow multiple users, does not allow customers expected loads. Then we can also validate race condition bugs that consist the system crash or hang or system cannot run client platform. The version control bugs, these are related towards no log matching, no version information is available, and this is occur normally in the regression testing. HW bugs, this is the device is not responding to the application. And help source bugs, this is mistakes in help documents. Now let's talk about the responsibility of an ETL tester. Some of the responsibility as a ETL tester, we need to understand test ETL software, test components of ETL data warehouse, execute the backend data driven test, create, design, and execute the test cases, test plan, and test hardness. And our goal must be identify the problem and provide the solutions for potential issues. The most important thing, approve requirements and design specifications, and data transfer and test the flat files. And another important point, we must try to understand writing the SQL queries for various scenarios like count test now. Thank you very much for taking this course. I hope that you will apply all these best practices and transform your journey towards your achieving your next milestone and become good full stack software quality assurance engineer.